This interview is being conducted for St John, Scotland, 75 years of making a difference. My name is Dr. Sue Morrison and the respondent is Lesley Macdonald. This is June 2022 and the interview is taking place in Glenrothes. Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed for the project, Lesley.
You're very welcome.
For the record, would you please confirm your full name?
My name is Lesley Macdonald.
Thank you. Would you mind giving me your year of birth, just your year?
Yes, I was born in 1957.
Thank you very much. And where were you brought up, Lesley?
Well, I was born in Leith, and very shortly after my birth, my parents moved to Curry, which is just outside Edinburgh, and that was where I lived until I got married.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
One sister, yes, older than me, which I like to remind her.
And what did you study at school? What was your favourite subject?
My favourite subject actually was anatomy, physiology and health. I don't think they have that in the curriculum now, but yes, no, I really liked that.
So what did you do after school?
After school, I went to work for the bank, and I have been in banking all my life. So I left school when I was 16. I didn't need to do hires. The bank were actually hiring staff and training them at that point. And yeah, so I worked in Edinburgh until actually I met my husband, and he was a Fifer, and that's what brought me to Fife.
Tell me about your husband.
My husband is Lesley Macdonald, and he's a lovely man. I met him in Edinburgh. He was in the police and he was on secondment in Edinburgh when I met him at a charity event in the evening for the Police Sea Angling Association, and he came in and he had a beard that was down to just about down to his chest, and he had long curly hair, and I remember thinking, God, I wish I had hair like that. But that was him. He was undercover, and we were engaged the same year. We met in April and we got engaged on Christmas Day, and we were engaged for 2 years, and we got married in 79. And at that point, Ewan had finished his secondment and he was back working in Fife, and when we got married we bought a house in Kirkcaldy, and then in 96 we moved up here to Glenrothes, and we've been here ever since.
Thank you. Do you have a family?
We do. We have 3 children. We have 2 boys and a girl. They're all married and all have family, and we are very fortunate to have 6 grandchildren, a boy and a girl. Each of them have, so that's 3 girls and 3 boys, so that was neatly done.
And you look after your grandchildren quite a lot?
We do, yes. We childmind on a regular basis, and they each, our son and daughter-in-law, one of them lives down south, so we try and see them as often as possible, but the other 2, our other son and daughter, they live up here, and they've got dogs too, so we have 4 grandchildren and 3 dogs to look after, so life is always busy. Hectic but busy.
Thank you very much. How did you first become aware of St John, Scotland?
It was actually through Ewan. He was running the police station in Glenrothes, and at that time the committee for Fife met in one of their rooms up the stairs in the police station, and because of that association, Ewan was invited. If ever they had a function on, he was invited as a guest and took me along as well. And I have to say, from the very beginning, I liked everybody. They were just so lovely, and they all had good ethic and morals, and they just wanted to be there for their community and to do the best that they could do for them. And I liked them instantly, and they were funny and kind, and I thought, gosh, this is a really nice organisation. And we went to a lot of things as a guest, and they were always very kind to us and very welcoming. And then they approached Ewan and asked him if he would like to become a member. But at that point, he had done his 30-year service within the police and had actually been offered another job, and was about to move into that new role, and didn't feel that at that time he could give a proper commitment to St John. But he said, I know somebody that could. So that was how St John ended up with me. Not necessarily because they wanted me, but because they were offering me. And I've always been on committees ever since I got married. So another committee, I thought, I can do this. And I think the fact that I had met so many people in Fife that were so very nice, and I thought, yeah, I would like to belong to St John's. So that was how that came about. Probably the activities that we got involved in mainly were in the St Andrews area and Dunfermline, because we had two branches at either end of Fife, and they were very active. And we had, I think probably the first thing I remember was going to a service at Christmas time, and our chaplain was Clifford Strong, Reverend Clifford Strong, and he was he was such a nice man, and his wife was so kind, and they only saw us once a year, but they never forgot our children's names. And we used to go to a church service at Monimail, and he would stand there and he would throw it open to the floor. It was like a bingo night. Shout what carol you want to sing. And the service was standing room only. The balcony up the stairs would be full, down the stairs was full, and it was probably the only church service that our children were happy to go to. We didn't have to drag them. It's like, when are we going? And that was just so lovely. So I was involved, with that, and that's got very happy memories. And we ran coffee mornings, so to bring in buy sales, plant sales. And then on a more charitable side of things, we did an awful lot for local hospitals. We put garden seats in so that patients could sit outside with their families. We've given to Glenrothes Hospital, which is local. We've given them special beds, special chairs, footstools, that kind of thing. We've ran coffee mornings within the hospital to raise money for them. Up in Cooper, they have a palliative care area for relatives, if the relatives want to stay over. And this was a new area, and they had it all decorated. So we were instrumental in providing them with bedding and cutlery, things to make a relative's life just that little bit more comfortable if the occasion arose that they had to stay. And also there we donated garden benches, and we had a little plaque put on each of them to say they came from St John. We've done up gardens. We've done a lot. We also, once a year, we help donate to Disabled Sports Fife, which is local in Glenrothes, and that's for all young people who are disabled but are very much involved with sport. We've supported riding for the disabled, also within Fife. And there are a whole host of areas that we have over the years supported and enabled other charities to have a little bit easier in life. Whatever whatever they've come to us and said, can we help? St John and Fife have always tried to be there and give support and encouragement to other charities and other organisations that just needed that little bit of support.
What would you say was your favourite either fundraising or fund giving activity?
I don't know if I have a favourite. I think anybody that we've helped, it's been very worthwhile, and there is some gratification knowing that you've been able to contribute to someone else's well-being. And I think it would be difficult to say I have a favourite, but I think the favourite goes back to the Monimail Christmas service. I don't think anybody that's been to it will ever forget it. It was quite something else, yes. But sadly, I think over the time when I first joined, a lot of the members were 60 to 70 at that time. And sadly, over 20, 25 years, a lot of these members now are no longer with us, and those that are not able really to come out and support us. So we're very much moving forward with St John Scotland and looking at all of our values, and we're now doing patient transport, we're doing CPR demonstrations along with defibs. We're trying to get public access to defibrillators into the community. So yes, I mean, things are exciting, and we're moving in a different way. It's not better or worse, it's just different. But St John have allowed us to still be able to care for different organisations within our community, that option is still there, that we can still help them, which I think is really good. So yeah, moving forward with St John, it's exciting, and what we would like to do is to be able to bring in new volunteers to help us. They don't necessarily have to be young, but maybe younger than most of us is on the existing committee would be a bonus. So yes, and different opportunities are arriving. Every month something different crops up, and St John in Fife we're able to move into different avenues, but still within our core projects.
Do you feel that you have enough autonomy then?
I would like us to be more widely known, not just in Fife but throughout Scotland. I mean, when someone approaches you, pre-COVID, we used to do a lot of can collecting in supermarkets. They were always very welcoming, and yes, please come in, and we'd do maybe 3 or 4 different can collections in the year to raise money. But more than just raising money, it was raising awareness, because people saw you, you had your badge, you had your can, you would have a board that was saying who you were and what you were collecting for. Since COVID, that opportunity is now not there. So it's more important, I think, for us to be known for the work that we do. Just recently, Ewan and I gave a talk with the help of Kaylee from head office. She supplied us with some information, and then we put together the rest. And it's about informing the community who think we are just St John Ambulance, and letting them know that no, we're not, and this is actually what we're doing. And very much in Fife in 2017, we were approached by the health board to ask whether or not we could set up a patient transport system, looking at taking renal patients from their homes to the hospital and then taking them from the hospital home again. So I think that was 2016, and we started the service in 2017, taking patients to Dunfermline, and then shortly after we started to increase the service to cover Kirkcaldy Victoria Hospital. So we have currently about 25 drivers who are all volunteers. They're all outstanding. They have worked with us, some of them from the very beginning. They've worked through COVID, and they offer a service to the patients that an ambulance isn't able to do in quite the same way. When their treatment for dialysis is finished, we take them home. They're not having to sit for hours in a waiting room waiting on an ambulance coming back for them. Sadly, with COVID, we can only take one patient at a time still, but when that changes, we'll go back to maybe having a couple of patients in the car. And sometimes it's not just a case of driving them there and back. For a lot of patients, it's contact with the outside world. And it's also the fact that the drivers get to know the patients as well, perhaps on a personal level. So there's a lot to be said. It's not just a question of driving them, it's a question of friendship and security, knowing that they're going to be looked after to and from the hospital. So we run that, and we couldn't run it without our volunteers, who are just, as I say, just outstanding. And we are now into offering CPR defibrillator training, which is amazing. If we can train someone that's going to save someone's life, how amazing would that be? We have deployed public access defibrillators into different areas throughout Fife, and that's a programme that we're hoping to expand. Excuse me. And in order to expand it, we really need to get more volunteers on board. So we're currently going to be advertising for an assistant role to be supportive to Lawson Rennie, who's our CPR champion at the moment, and hopefully that can only expand and improve the areas within Fife and keep people safe. And we know that one of our defibs that has been installed into a local village has actually been used within the first week it was installed. So how fantastic is that? Even if we only save one life in Fife, that's something we're all very proud of. We are a small committee, but we're big on enthusiasm. Enthusiasm and hard work. So I'm very proud to be the chair in Fife at the moment. Yeah.
What's the main challenges, do you think, going forward?
I think the biggest challenge is volunteers. If you, with no disrespect to anybody, if you look at the age of most of the committees and volunteers within Scotland, I certainly, I'm speaking for Fife here, but I think a lot of areas are the same, is that we're all getting on in years. I'm nearly 65 and I am the youngest, and our oldest member is 83. So we want to stay active in Fife and current, but in order to do that going forward, we definitely need more volunteers. So we need maximum publicity and as many volunteers as we can bring on board.
Would it be your hope that some of the volunteer drivers, would perhaps become members over time?
One or two have, and we're extremely grateful to them for that, and we welcome them on board. One of our volunteer drivers has now become our patient transport coordinator and is doing a marvellous job, so we're very grateful. A lot of the drivers don't necessarily want to be involved out with their patient transport driving services, which is absolutely fine. And if we're always open. If any of them want to come and join us, we would be delighted. But those that we have spoken to want to be involved in what they're doing, but don't necessarily want to do any more than that. And giving them the respect, a lot of them probably don't have the time, because any free time that they do have, that's what they're using that time for, and that's to help take patients to and from the hospitals. So we are needing for the public to know about us, to know about what we do and the good work that we do. We also do mountain rescue, mountain support, not in this area, but yes, and it's getting the public to know who we are, what we're doing, let them know that we're very open and welcoming, and anybody that wants to come along and volunteer for us will be, more than welcome. We shall grab them with both arms.
Do you do any work in schools at the moment?
Not at the moment, no. We have done, we've done CPR and defibrillator demonstrations within colleges. I think we were in one school, I wasn't able to go, but that was a programme that was just about to take off when COVID hit. I have been in touch with one or two schools, and they're not quite at that stage for having us in yet, which is absolutely fine. We did a CPR demonstration at Markinch Highland Games on Sunday, and I did speak to a few of the teachers from different schools who just stopped by our tent to say, "Oh, what are you doing? Well, can we come in and can we have a try?" And during the conversation, we discovered that they were school teachers, and we spoke to them about coming into the schools, and they said that they hadn't been open to that up until this point, but when school starts back in August, they're hoping that things will be much more open, and they would be very delighted to have us in. So that is something that's quite exciting, and we've got that look forward to. So to have more volunteers, we can go into a lot of schools if we have more volunteers. With a small committee, it's very difficult to do as much as we would like to do, but we'll get there in the end.
Ideally, you would love to have NHS staff coming on board as volunteers to teach CPR in particular, but they are snowed under and have their own challenges at the moment. Is there any other particular profession that you could perhaps target?
Anyone can learn to do bystander CPR, so they don't have to come from a nursing background. It can be just your regular person who walks in off the street, and they can be trained and they can save a life.
Thank you. Has St John Scotland changed in any way since you started?
Yes, I think so. Fundamentally, we're all the same, but I think we've been incorporated now. We have a new registered charity. We have a new way of looking at things, and it's very much if we do something by St John, it's for St John. And we're now, whereas before we were more, each area was left to their own devices, whereas now I think we're much more structured. We have a wider staff base that are very good, and we can call on them if we need anything, and they're there to support us. And certainly in Fife they do support us, and we very welcome that, because we are a small committee, and any help that we can get is very valuable. And I think I think we're much more focused now. We're trying to find our way through difficult times, but to be there for the community, which is very much at the heart, I think, of what St John stands for. So yes, I think we're becoming more modern, we're moving forward, we're trying to keep up with the times, but then so are a lot of other organisations, and it's just keeping us there and keeping us up front and present.
Do you think there are any areas where St John Scotland really needs to make improvements?
I think with publicity, definitely. And in order, if you see a badge on someone, you automatically think of St John Ambulance, which is great, because it is that connection. But we need in St John Scotland to be able to stand alone, to actually have the public know what it is and what we do. And I think also looking forward, we need to be looking at other avenues that we can be current within communities. There are a lot of communities now doing first responders, defibrillator training, CPR training. So I think going forward, we need to think, what are going to be our next steps? What can we do to save a life in Scotland? Where do we go from here in the next 10 years? We have a 5-year plan, and then I think we need to be looking at, well, where do we move at the end of this 5-year plan that we have? What do we do next, and how do we keep ourselves out there and current and make a difference? Because that's the whole point of us being together, is to make a difference.
Who do you think should be involved in making those decisions?
I think area chairs, and very much the head office staff working together. I think the head office staff to give us direction and support is excellent, but each area in Scotland very much works. We work the same, and we have the same values, but each area works slightly different, only because the area committees and the area chairs know what is needed and what goes on in their area. So you don't want to just put, say, a sticking plaster on a problem. You need somebody who knows what is going on in their area, and that's why it's really important that we work together, and we do work together as a team. Yes, I think before I became chair, I really didn't know anybody in St John, and then you become chairman and you go twice a year to Edinburgh and you meet people, and it was very daunting the first time because I didn't know anybody, but everybody's lovely and so welcoming, and I think Zoom gave us the opportunity to be together, and I think that's really important, that the areas can come together and we can talk about everything. We can share best practice about this works in our area. Oh, didn't think about that. This is what we were doing in fundraising. So the fundraising teams can all get together and meet. The treasurers could all get together and meet. It's very much about sharing best practice, and it's fine to have on paper that this is how we're going to do things. But when it comes to the practicalities, it's so important, I think, that everybody can meet together and to discuss how things are going in their area. And I'd like to see more of that from St John, and I think that it is nice to get together face to face, definitely, but that presents challenges as well, because you've got people from the north, right, all over Scotland. So Zoom gives you the opportunity that you can then put a face to a name. So yeah, I'd quite like to see more of that, where whether it's a social event held over Zoom, and we, Kaylee and the staff did a lot of that over Zoom. We had quiz nights and we had silliness, and it really was good. So going forward, yeah, I'd like to see more. Maybe where the treasurers can maybe even once a year just get together, fundraising gets together, and as I say, share best practices, and especially I think in the current times where you can't go out and you can't shake a can and you can't be visible because of that situation, that if somebody's got better ideas, why not share them?
Do you think that St John Scotland is still as relevant as it used to be?
Yes, I think so, just in a slightly different way. The coffee mornings we had brought people together. It let people mix socially, and it raised awareness about who St John was, and money was raised, and that went to local organisations within their community. We've moved forward from that, and we're much more specific in what we do now, which is also good. We can still do what we were doing, but moving forward, we have much more focus, I think, which is always good. So yeah, I think so. We just need to get ourselves out there and be seen more than we are.
Can you sum up what do you think is the best thing about St John Scotland?
I think the best thing about St John's Scotland is that we are St John's Scotland. We work together, we have the same values, we have the same, hopefully we're all trying to have the same core values, and to offer the same services throughout Scotland, as we do here in Fife. But I think the best thing is that we are together. We are an organisation which cares for people and wants the best for people and wants to save lives in Scotland. And coming together as an organisation I think is the best thing.
That's actually all of my questions. You answered lots of them without asking.
Yeah, I can prattle on.
Is there anything you would like to add or tell me about?
No, I don't think so. I think the most important things are that we get ourselves known by the public. We put ourselves out there as often as we can to do as much as we can, and we need to bring in more volunteers. And I think that's a worry, especially to me, because a few years ago we nearly folded in Fife, and I tried to seek help from head office, not head office as it is now, and I didn't feel that I got the help. or the support that I would have liked. And I don't mean this in any other way than I'm going to say it, is that I had to fight long and hard to keep a committee together, because we nearly folded. But I'm thankful to say that we did. We rallied round, and we offered the amazing services that we are doing now. So I think for areas that are struggling, we're struggling because we need people. We need volunteers, and without them, we will fold. And I don't want ever to see that happen. I think there is a need for St John Scotland. We just need to keep ourselves current and relevant and bring people on board. And it's easy to say that it's up to each area to bring people on board, but it's not always that easy. And sometimes we are needing to go back to head office, and there does need to be a big campaign to put ourselves out there, into the press, maybe even onto TV. And I know certainly during lockdown, especially the first lockdown, and you watch the news avidly because you're trying to gather as much information as possible so you can understand what's going on. It was amazing to see how many interviews took place with St John Ambulance Service down south, and they were speaking to ambulance drivers. It was very current, it was very there in your face. I would like to see us being able to do that, so that anybody in Scotland knows exactly who we are and what we stand for. And unless we do that, I can't see us moving forward, because apart from head office, which has paid staff, the rest of St John is run only by volunteers. Wonderful volunteers, but if you're going to run an organisation of volunteers, you have to keep bringing people in. And it's not always, we're finding it in Fife very difficult to bring in new volunteers. I don't know if there's an apathy in Fife to, once you get home, you don't want to be involved. But also I think you need to look at society as a whole. It's changing. Very much when I had my children, a lot of parents didn't go out to work. Well, a lot of mums didn't go out to work. You would have dads too, but in those days that was much more rare. And in the early 80s, it was the mums who stayed at home. So therefore, when the husband came home, you needed something for you. So you sat in a committee, you were out there, you volunteered. Nowadays, both parents are working, and they all work really hard, and they come in at night, and they've got school uniform, and they've got washing, and they've got cooking, and everything else that goes with it. And you get the kids to bed, and a lot of parents still have work to do for the next day. So trying to engage volunteers to come out in today's society is more difficult than I think it has been in the past. So yeah, we need to look at how we're going to do that as well.
Just thinking aloud, excuse me, do you think it would be useful to perhaps have a paid member of staff specifically to tackle recruitment and publicity in each area?
Well, publicity is managed by head office, and I can't say in Fife we have any issues with that. The staff are super. If we need to advertise for someone, they create that advertisement, they get it out into the local paper, or they put it on Facebook. So we are lucky that we do have that member of staff that we can call on, and she's superb. Recruitment, yes, I would like to see that. What we're trying to do in Fife just now is, because our patient transport service is up and running, and our CPR and defib demonstrations are where we want to move forward with. What we would like to do is for recruitment to fall along the lines of bringing someone on board who is in a supportive but a proactive role So they're going to take the initiative, and they are going to look at contacts. They're going to look at areas in Fife that are areas perhaps of need, to phone around schools, to phone around businesses, where we don't have that time and we can't offer that level of commitment. So we are currently looking to advertise for someone to come on board, and that's the kind of thing that we in Fife are going to need if we're going to survive, is someone who can dedicate that time, who has the know-how, who can pick up a phone and say, this is the services that we offer, can we be of assistance to you? Phone around the schools, the colleges, and get us known and get us into different areas. We would very much like that to take off. So we're hoping that someone will volunteer to do that role, and hopefully then be able to advertise further to bring on more volunteers in a supportive role to come in, because there are so few of us. We can't keep being out every day of the week in order to deliver the service, so we do need more volunteers to come on board. So we're hoping to start off with someone who's going to be proactive and then bring other members on board. So that's how we're hoping to move forward at the moment.
Which brings me on to the very last question that I have. What are your hopes for the future of St John Scotland?
I would like us to grow, to as I said before, for the public to know who we are, to have earned that respect, and basically to get our volunteer base a lot larger than it is at the moment. I know some areas within Fife are doing really well, and they have a big core of volunteers, but for a lot of us we don't, and that's what I would like to see. I'd like us to emulate some of the other areas. Edinburgh, they have a big volunteer group. I would like to see us do that in Fife. I would hate us to fold here, because there is a need for us here. It may be that some of the roles we may have to look at paying them. I mean, the volunteers that we have are very committed, but the likes of the patient transport coordinator, their work can be immense, and it may be that it's too big a role for a volunteer, and it may be that going forward, when we expand our services, we may very well maybe need to think about paying someone to do that role. I know some of the roles were thought that they could be managed from head office, but it comes back down to the fact that we know our area, we know what's needed, we know the lie of the land, if you like, and so therefore, yes, I think things still need to be managed locally, but the bigger we grow, it may be that it's too much for a volunteer, and it may be that we may have to pay someone to come on board and do that, because it is a full-time role. It's a lot of work, a lot of hours. So yeah, I would like us to see us going from strength to strength, and coming up with fresh ideas, different areas that we can move into as well, from the current roles that we are doing at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add?
I don't think so. I think I've talked enough.
Thank you very, very much, Lesley. That's been great.
You're very welcome, Sue. Thank you for being kind to me.